Hello, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. We're talking a bit about how happiness happens, looking at some thoughts that are actually in a book I wrote some time ago. If you can stay around, awesome. If you cannot, awesome. But let us know how to pray for you before you leave. Would you please just post your prayer needs on the prayer page. If you can stay around, I want to tell you about my fourth grade Bible study teacher. I remember him as a large man, built a bit like a concrete block. He wore a crew cut, neckties, and short-sleeved white shirts with an ever-present pocket protector. I was one of four fourth grade boys who attended his Bible study each Wednesday night at the Parkview Church of Christ in Odessa, Texas. The classroom held at least a dozen desks. I do not remember the teacher's name, nor do I recall any details about his life. Was he a plumber? Was he a postman? I really have no idea. What I recall with startling detail is the evening of February the 10th, 1965. He attempted to teach his handful of 10-year-old boys the meaning of the 7th chapter of the book of Romans. You might know that is the section in which the Apostle Paul confessed the civil war that raged within his heart. The topic was a heavy one for a covey of kids. It's a heavy one for anyone. And when he talked about a troubled conscience and the need for forgiveness, however, I took note. Now, I gave the teacher no reason to think that the class had made an impression on me. I don't remember asking him any questions. I did not thank him for his words. He likely went home with little or no expectation of the impact of the lesson. If his wife happened to ask him, "How was your class?" he probably would have made some comment about those kids who don't give me any feedback. What he did not know is that the freckle-faced redhead on the second row was listening, and that the man's teaching planted a seed that would bear a fruit of faith. Now, I've not seen him since, but he made a huge difference in my life, and if I had the opportunity, I would say thank you. I doubt if I'll have the opportunity, so I say thank you to you, those of you who are like him, those of you who serve the rest of us, those of you who really don't care about being seen. You're really more concerned about Christ being seen. Very few of you stand behind a pulpit, but some of you make sure a pulpit is there. Very few of you wear a microphone, but you make sure it's turned on. You're a servant. You're a servant, and you embodied the verse. For you, brethren, have been called to liberty. Only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. Galatians 5 and verse 13. These words appear toward the end of an epistle that we often call the Epistle of Liberation. For 5 chapters, the Apostle Paul proclaimed, "You're free. You're free. You're free from sin. You're free from guilt. You're free from rules. You're free from regulation. The yoke of slavery is off and liberation has begun." Our freedom, however, Paul says, is not an excuse for us to do whatever we want. Just the opposite. Because we are free, we can serve. We voluntarily indenture ourselves to others. In a society that seeks to be served, we seek opportunities to serve. The New Testament tells the story of Andrew. He was a servant. He was the brother of Peter. He came from the same town as James and John. Yet when we discuss the inner circle of Peter, James, and John, we don't mention Andrew. His name never appears at the top of the list of leaders. Apparently, he lived in the shadow of others. In the group photo, he stood at the side, hands in his pockets. Then again, he probably held the camera. We get the impression that he was quiet, but quiet does not mean complacent. And just because Andrew avoided the limelight That does not mean that he lacked fire. He led his brother Peter to Jesus. Peter went on to preach the first sermon. Peter led the Jerusalem church. Peter took the gospel to the Gentiles. Peter wrote epistles that we still read and ponder today. Peter defended the Apostle Paul. Anyone who appreciates Paul's epistles owes a debt of gratitude to Peter, and anyone who has benefited from the rock-like faith of Peter owes a debt of gratitude to a servant by the name of Andrew. Now, what would happen if everyone took on the spirit of Andrew and played the role of a servant? Honestly, how many marriages would be blessed? If politicians set out to serve their people more than serve themselves, would their country benefit? If churches were populated by sincere servants, how many 10-year-old boys would hear the invitation of a lifetime? And the great part is when we serve others, we're blessed. A 2010 study of more than 4,500 American adults revealed that of the people who volunteered an average of more than 100 hours a year, 68% reported feeling physically healthier as a result. 73% said that volunteerism lowered their stress levels, and 89% said that the service had improved their sense of well-being. We elevate our joy, in other words, by giving joy to others. Today, be the quiet servant. Be the family member who offers to wash the dishes after dinner. The colleague who serves the staff by arriving on time for each meeting and listening attentively to others. The church member who supports the pastor with prayer and notes of encouragement. Be the neighbor who mows the grass of the elderly couple. Can you imagine the joy-giving benefits that these simple actions would bring, that they do bring? And again, to those of you who do serve, who live this message much better than I present it, thank you. On behalf of all the little 10-year-old boys who don't seem like they're listening, we are.